Welcome to the February 2024 Planning Board meeting. I'd like to stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we get going, I just want to thank Hugo Chairman for being chairman for last year. He's done a really great job.
Yeah, I get my tip. My own.
And also today, Jean is taking over from Sabrina as the alternate. So. Okay. We will not be approving last month's minutes because there was a technical glitch, and we will table that till next month. So first on the agenda tonight is Flintlock Storage.
Good evening, Jamie LaJudas from Insight Engineering, Surveying and Landscape Architecture. We're here tonight. I can't see the applicant with me. I think he's running a touch behind. But we're here tonight just for an extension of the approval. Basically, they're looking for two 90-day extensions to push the expiration date to September 4th of this year in order to procure their construction bonds. That's basically it.
Good evening, Bruce Barber, Town's Environmental Planning Consultant. Before you this evening is a draft resolution, as Jamie indicated, to grant Flintlock Storage 2 90-day extensions. The application was initially approved by the Planning Board on March 9th, due to expire on March 8th of this year. The applicant's requesting again 2 90-day extensions. As the board requests, the granting of the second 90-day extension is conditional upon the applicant providing reasonable information as to why the construction was not commenced within the first 90-day period. And so that is before you this evening. So you just need a motion and a second, and then a roll call vote.
All right. Would anybody like to make the motion to accept the resolution?
I'll make the motion.
Anybody second it?
I'll second.
Everybody?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
And you too. And next on the agenda is the Chungyang Monastery.
Good evening. For the record, my name is John Andrews. I serve as engineer to the Planning Board. Chungyang is in front of you for a couple items. Basically, an erosion and sediment control permit, and now a wetland permit. I issued a comment memo dated February 5th. Bruce and I made a field visit today to examine conditions. The only thing we identified that's not fully detailed on the plan set is the fact that the new proposed well is within 100 foot of a stream that runs through the property. So they will now need a wetland permit. So they will have to modify their application to include a wetland permit. But other than that, most of what's left is to dot the i's and cross the t's and flesh out what they've done. We have enough information. The site is great for what they propose. Where the two structures are to be located is an ideal spot, the only issue being the wetland permit. So there's no action for the board to take tonight other than to request that the applicant modify his application and that their engineer be directed to address my comments and those of Mr. Barber.
No, you're good? I
just left at 6:30.
Okay, next on the agenda is White Vernon property.
Good evening. My name is William Schilling. I'm here for Jack Carell, who is on vacation. I think you all know why we're here. We've been before this board and other boards for 3 years. The problem has been the driveway width, which this board agreed to 12 feet, which was code, and that's inconsistent with the DEC conservation easement, which requires 10. So we're very thankful to the board that you'll consider using your powers to modify dimensional things if the criteria is met, and I believe we've spoken about that already, so I'll yield to.
Thank you. Good evening. As Mr. Schilling explained, you're here to consider a waiver. You should have a resolution, a draft in front of you, dated February 8th, 2024, identified as Draft 2. And basically what this does is it sets forth the case for granting a waiver. I would draw your attention to the what amounts to be the third from the last whereas. It's the longest one. And you do have the ability to waive the driveway requirements, subject to 4 conclusions that you must reach. The first is that the action is unique and peculiar. I would submit to you that is in fact the case. Not only is the underlying property owned by DEP, it is further encumbered by a DEC conservation easement. There's very few of those around. And the requirement is for 10 foot, not the 12 foot is required by our code. This doesn't set a precedent because it's unique. It's not contrary to public interest in public health, safety, and welfare. We did get a letter from the fire district. They're acceptable to this. And the last is that there's no identifiable detriment to be suffered by the public. They've already got approvals. This is just narrowing a driveway. And in fact, the benefit we get with the narrowing the driveway, we will get the ability to put the utilities underneath that driveway, which would save us. You did issue a wetland permit for an alternative route for the utilities. Not having to use that and affording better protections to the wetlands is in the public interest, not a detriment. So based on those findings, therefore resolved is you waive the public hearing, you approve the amended steep slope and erosion control plan, and you grant the necessary modification, accepting a 10-foot driveway where 12-foot would otherwise be required. And there are basically a couple conditions. One is they need to pay the inspection fee if they haven't already, and 2, that they need to pay all the fees and charges that have been accrued during the course of this review. And then the last items are just standard boilerplate with respect to an erosion and sediment control permit. And other than that, we need a motion, a second, and then a vote.
So this is solely just to waive it from 12 foot to 10 foot?
It's to waive it, it's to grant an amended approval to the permit because they're changing their drawings, and it's to waive the public hearing. 3 things.
Okay. We would like to make a motion to accept the resolution as stated, which is change the 12-foot requirement for the town to a 10-foot just solely for this because it is a unique situation. And also for
To waive the public hearing
waive the public hearing
and grant
and
an
the-
amended erosion control permit
grant
approval.
the amended erosion control. And what about the steep slopes?
It's all part of
That's all.
erosion control,
Okay.
steep slope and erosion control permit, sorry.
I'll make such motion.
I'll second it.
And can we get a roll call on it? So, Jean, how do you vote?
Yes.
Jackie?
Yes.
Hugo?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
Giancarlo?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
And myself, yes.
Thank you very much. You're all set, sir. You need to tell Mr. Correll to get the number of drawings necessary to hear it in time.
Okay. No, it's just the pronunciation. I apologize if I get this wrong. Maruccio property?
Good evening, members of the board. I am here to actually just kind of give you a project update. We had a discussion last Thursday during the workshop about this project. So Mr. and Mrs. Baracho owns this 10.7 acre property, and they want to subdivide a portion of it to build a new home. So during the design phase, we had originally put the house and the septic out of the 100-foot buffer. And then recently, last year, the town redelineated the wetland, and the wetland line has moved up the hill a little bit, which has caused the 100-foot wetland buffer to move up the hill as well. So that said, now a portion of the house will be inside that 100-foot wetland buffer, as well as my original designed reserve area would be inside the 100-foot buffer. So since we spoke last Thursday, we've done some moving around of the house and some reorientation. So I was able to get the main septic area outside of the 100-foot buffer. And by moving the house south, I was able to take the reserve area and move that outside of the 100-foot buffer as well. So the only thing I have left to do other than address Mr. Andrews' memo, I know there's some SWIP requirements I still have to complete, but I'll have to redo a deep test and a perk test with the Board of Health in the reserve area. So I spoke to Gene Reed about that. We're planning on doing that probably next week. The other thing that we had talked about too was the possibility of some wetland mitigation plantings. So on this drawing here, I had identified an area about 1,300 square feet directly behind the house, where aesthetically it's right against the 100-foot wetland buffer. So, I'm sorry, it's against the wetland buffer. So as you take a look outside the back of the house, you would be able to see, those wetland mitigation plantings. I don't have any particular details yet. I was going to work with Bruce on particular types of plantings, take a look at what the DEC requirements are and other things like that. And then the other thing that I've worked on too is I've been in contact with DEC. I've completed the pre-meeting application, so at some point they're going to respond, and then we'll probably have a meeting out there with DEC as well. So Board of Health approval and the DEC permitting. And I did get a letter back. I guess it is an area with the New England cottontail. Yeah. So I'll have to look into that also to see. I'll ask DEC if there's some kind of study that they're gonna need for that as well. And then that was an overall site plan, but basically here's a blow up of the area. The house, everything is within the zoning setbacks, the 50-foot front yard setback, the 25-foot side yard setbacks. We designed the stormwater for the driveway and also for the house itself. Here's our effective square. I was able to move the main septic area outside of the 100-foot buffer. That 100-foot buffer kind of comes like this little arc right here. So the septic area outside the 100-foot buffer, and then the reserve area to the north, which is outside the 100-foot buffer.
And you said the house has moved south?
Yes, so the house used to be up here.
Okay.
So making room for the reserve area, I
So
took the
then
house and
did the driveway move?
Yes, so the driveway used to be here, coming out here, so I moved that down in relation to the house as well.
And is it true that part of the house is still within the buffer?
Yes,
But
a
the
portion of the
septic is
house
gone.
is still inside the 100-foot buffer.
Okay, so this is, as Andy indicated, pretty much what the board was looking to see if could be accomplished. Whereas at the workshop, the idea was, could the septic system be located outside of the wetland buffer itself and the wetlands as well? And by doing this, basically it looks like that's been achieved subject to Board of Health approval, which is encouraging it in the right direction as part of the board's discussion last week. The board should recall that this was proofed out to the 10,000 square foot subdivision rectangle that's required for environmental sensitive land. It does not indicate that that rectangle cannot include wetland buffer, just wetlands. So the applicant basically proved out that there's a viable rectangle there of 10,000 square feet, but is choosing not to locate the septic system in its entirety in that location, but also as a split system up here too. So they meet the requirement of that zoning stipulation for the subdivision approval. I want to look at the proposed mitigation a little bit more. We had had a discussion last week, again at workshop, relative to this low area on Ludingtonville, and there's a possibility of maybe treating some stormwater drainage off of there versus some plantings in the back of the property. So that's, I think, going to evolve over time. We'll have a look and see what's more feasible, what's more practicable. Other than that, the DEC wetland delineation and any DEC permitting is still pending. Board of Health approval, again, is going to go back a little bit because they have to do some soil testing, as Andy indicated. I have just some T's to cross and I's to go over on this in terms of my memo. So at this time, I think we need a little more time for these things to kind of ripen before we go to public hearing. Maybe in March I'll come back with some more answers and be able to move forward more. Okay. Andy, do you have this memo?
Likewise, as Mr. Chung indicated, I do have a memo. A lot of the items will be modified by the altered design, but essentially there's no engineering negatives. It's all dotting I's, crossing T's, and making it happen. So as long as he can do that, I concur with Bruce's assessment. We need a little more time to take a look at this, and he needs time to develop and get us some answers. And having said that, we'll look forward to seeing what we get next month.
Do you know the due date for the March meeting? I think it's, what is it, Vera? Just so we look over it. February 27th. Okay? Thank you.
Okay. Next on the list is Kent Self-Storage.
Good evening. As we discussed at the work session, we're working towards meeting all the open comments and are looking to get to a public hearing. So we anticipate being on the next month's agenda with our revised submission. But at this point, we're asking for a time extension since our original approval has lapsed. So we're asking for 2 90-day time extensions to get us to August, which would hopefully get us to the finish line on this.
So I prepared a draft resolution for the board's consideration this evening. As Joe indicated, this project has been going through several iterations and is right now under continued review and going towards the finish line in terms of being soon ready for public hearing, we believe. But in the interim, it's prudent to not let the existing approvals expire. So before you is the resolution. It's printed as draft 1. It's dated today's date. Basically, the application is for 2 90-day extensions. The expiration date on that would be on August 6th, 2024. This also includes, as the board requests, that prior to the automatic extension of the second 90 days, that the applicant appear before the board or provide reason as to why they could not start construction during the first 90-day period. And so, other than that, it's very standard in this format. We would need a motion and a second, and a roll call vote.
Okay. Who would like to make a motion to accept the resolution for 290 days extension for Kent Storage?
I'll make that motion.
And who would like to second it?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, Joe.
Okay. Next on the list is Longinarchi, sorry, property.
Okay, so this is an application that received conditional approval from this board to install some fill on a property, and the applicant has been seeking a source of that fill. They've had a source, they tested the soil per the board's directive. The soil came back with some contaminants that didn't meet unrestricted residential standards, and as a result, the board felt that that was not a suitable soil to use. This month, they came up with an additional source, or another source, in a different location, provided soil testing for that location, which were found to be free of contaminants and meeting the unrestricted residential standards. So the recommendation is for the board to authorize for the use of this fill with two provisions. And number one is that the report that they sent this month had pretty much all the same information from the first report, with the exception of the photographs were different. The source of the photos is Bedford Road, not what they're saying in the report. So amending the report so it correctly identifies the location of the soil that it's coming from. Secondly, to have a request that a chain of custody be provided prior to the issuance of any certificate of completion from the building inspector or any sign-offs from this board or the consultants. That basically says that there's a documentation that the soil was collected at the site where it was tested and brought in a certain way by people signing off, from the backhoe operator to the dump truck driver to the operator on site, to make sure that we're getting the right soil in the right spot. And that chain of custody will be signed by all those involved and submitted to the building inspector prior to final sign-offs. So basically, the board can just vote this evening to indicate that they accept the soil in these conditions, and we'll get that information back to the applicant.
Okay, we just vote, we're not actually making a motion?
No, you don't have to just vote.
And we're just making a vote on agreeing to use, authorizing using the soil, and also having a chain of custody for the soil.
Correct, and I would just suggest, Mr. Chairman, that you indicate it was the soil identified in the January 23rd, 2024 report.
Okay, we'd like to make a vote on accepting the soil that was on the report of January 23 of 2024, but also it must come with a chain of custody to make sure that it follows the right path. And we just do a simple...
And just amending the report to indicate that it's consistent with the site that they're bringing the soil from. Right now it says pretty much the original report from last month.
So to make sure that it's coming from Bedford Road.
Correct. Okay?
And it's just a simple vote.
Yes, sir.
So how does everybody vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks.
Oh, that was you. Okay. Okay. I guess then we're below the line then.
Yeah.
Okay, below the line. This one's going to be easy, hopefully. Melcher was signed this evening. Mr. Melcher was here. He picked up his plans. He is off to the races. What that means is the board, the town board accepted the bond and the bond amount. And you folks had granted administrative approval. We did a review of completeness. They're ready. So that's done. That can be removed. Torres, we're waiting for information. Rapoli. We had comments. We are waiting for updated information. Gypsy Trail Club, you all may recall, they were going to go back and revisit their lot configuration. We are waiting for some updated information. Guy Lazaka Mayet, he was here. We discussed the potential of replacing his architect with an engineer. I don't know.
24 Solar Drive?
Yes. I'll let the building inspector address that. But we don't have anything new, and what we do have is insufficient. So until we get updated information, we cannot move forward.
Won't take long. Good evening, Board. Bill Walters, Building Inspector. I had several emails from the owner of 24 Soul Drive. I believe they're in the process of cleaning up the property, brush and stuff that was there, and resetting the silt fences. I have an appointment with them next Thursday at 2 o'clock to meet the new engineer that's going to be going over the project and the issues that need to be addressed. So that's next Thursday. I should have more information for you.
Thank you.
If you need me, I can see what I can do about getting there. Okay. 2 o'clock. Okay. Ryder property, Dr. Ryder was at the workshop. I think you laid out quite clearly what you required of him in order to move forward. It's our understanding that he is looking to submit to get on for the March agenda. We have not seen anything yet, but that's our understanding. Nichols Road, we're still waiting for something from the attorneys. I did send something, I haven't heard from them yet. Route 52 development, that was still going on between attorneys, and we have not heard anything as of yet. And then New York State DEP in Seven Hills, we're waiting for something. I think you reached out to DEP. They never got back to you, did they? So there's not much we can do there. And that takes care of it, folks.
Okay, if nobody has any further, somebody like to make a motion to close the meeting?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Not here?